Tonight's sleep story is inspired by the Danish-American village of Solvang in California's Santa Ynez Valley, where you will be reminded of the kindness and compassion of strangers as you wander through the village and spend the night in a magical cabin that appears out of nowhere just for you. Find a cozy spot and settle in for tonight's magical, sleepy adventure. Welcome to the Whispering Willow. I am Diana, and my role tonight is to give you permission to slow down and remind you that you can receive care without effort. There is nothing you need to do to earn it. There is nothing about yourself you need to change. Simply let yourself be where you are, and care will be offered to you simply because you are present. Use this guided meditation and sleep story however it best serves you. You can skip the meditation and move right into the story if that appeals to you. And you can let go of my voice at any time and allow yourself to drift into blissful sleep when you feel the need, knowing you can come back and finish the story another time. As you settle into your bed, notice how it receives you without effort, how the surface beneath you holds your body exactly as it is. It moves to surround you, and the more you relax into it, the more it is able to support you in just the way you need. If it feels comfortable, rest one hand over your belly and the other near your heart. Or maybe you want your hands resting on the bed at your sides. Whatever your choice, allow the gentle warmth of your fingers to remind you that you are here and that you are safe. Tonight's focus is on observation. Before you change your breathing, just observe it. The quiet rise and fall of your chest, the coolness of the air you take in, the warmth of the air you exhale. Now observe the sounds you hear. Maybe the hum of a heater, the creak of your house settling, the quiet snore or purr of a furry companion, or the tick of a clock. Shift your focus to the smells that surround you. Maybe the fresh scent of your clean bed linen, the scent of your room or your night clothes. Finally, focus on touch, the feel of the pillow as your head settles into it, the muscles of your face softening, your shoulders releasing their grip on the day, the feel of your clothes or sheets beneath your fingers. Now bring your attention back to your breath. Take a single, intentional, deep breath, inhaling slowly through your nose and exhaling through your mouth, taking a little longer to release the breath than you did to take it in. Do this 3 more times, inhaling through your nose and giving an audible exhale through the mouth. This type of breathing filters and warms the air as it comes in through the nose and grounds your attention on your breath, minimizing distractions for the mind. The audible oral exhale gives an opportunity to release something that is unnecessary, tension, a thought, or concern, and tells the nervous system it is time to relax and let go. When you are finished, allow your breathing to find its own natural rhythm again, letting everything else rest at the edge of the room or outside the door. Nothing is required of you now. There is nowhere else you need to be. Let my voice move at its own unhurried pace, carrying you toward the quiet space where wakefulness loosens and sleep begins to gather. It's time now for the story to begin. Solvang is a small town in California's Santa Ynez Valley, about halfway between Santa Barbara and San Luis Obispo. It was founded in 1911 by a group of Danish-American educators and farmers who were looking for a place with good soil, open land, and a slower, more intentional way of life. They didn't come seeking adventure or wealth. They came seeking steadiness. Solvang was built around the idea of creating a place where daily life could be lived well. From 1940 to 1960, residents made a conscious decision to preserve and celebrate their cultural identity. So the Danish architecture is not just decorative, though it makes the area look like a storybook village. It was a choice, allowing those who live there to remember where they came from. Windmills, bakeries, tiled roofs, and courtyards all echo traditional Danish village life, where towns were built to be walkable, social, and human-centered. This is why Solvang feels cozy instead of grand. You find yourself walking on a cobblestone sidewalk that is moist from the mist and light fog. It's unseasonably cold outside, but this area doesn't typically get snow. You can see a dusting on the distant mountains that surround the area. You are wearing comfortable, warm winter clothing and thick, fur-lined boots. You wear a matching hat, scarf, and gloves that were crocheted by a loved one in your favorite colors. The valley holds the town gently, with rolling hills and vineyards acting like a natural boundary. At night, the village can feel almost sealed off from the rest of the world. You have been feeling particularly tired lately, worn down by the mundanities of life and the seeming lack of care for humanity so many people exhibit. You needed an escape, an adventure, some self-care, since you haven't been feeling very cared for lately. With that in mind, you arrived in this area with no plan, no goal, other than to immerse yourself in someplace new until you could think and see clearly again. And this place is mesmerizing. Regardless of the lack of snow, it still feels very much like winter. Early sunsets this time of year create long, golden twilight and lantern-lit streets, and the architectural details of the village, like half-timbered buildings, windmills, and cobblestone streets, naturally evoke a storybook winter feeling. You look up and see a sign that indicates you are on Mission Drive, which appears to be the main street leading into downtown. Ahead of you, you see a large brown wooden sign hanging over the sidewalk with yellow lettering that says Solvang Restaurant, home of Arne's famous obliscua. Since this trip is all about experiencing something new, you open the door and walk inside. You are immediately wrapped in warmth. The wooden booths and tables hold a quiet, sturdy comfort, as if they've waited patiently for travelers just like you. The benches and walls are covered with scrolling woodwork, and the rafters on the ceiling each contain various common Danish proverbs or ordsprog, phrases like, "A good start is half the battle," or "Speech is silver, silence is golden." The presence of these inscriptions evokes an old-world wisdom that makes you feel a part of the Danish culture. Soft light spills from overhead, casting gentle shadows across the room, and the air carries the faint, inviting aroma of freshly baked bread and simmering soups. Along the windows, delicate lace curtains flutter slightly, filtering the light so that it feels like the village itself is leaning in to welcome you. On the walls, shelves hold blue and white plates and small pieces of Danish art, quiet reminders of a far-off place where care and tradition live in every detail. A friendly young server invites you to take a seat at a table by the window. She has a long blonde braid that hangs down the center of her back and blue eyes that sparkle. You remove your coat, hat, and gloves as you sit down. She asks you if you'd like a cup of coffee, and you tell her you would love that. As she pours you a cup of the steaming liquid, its scent reaches your nose and brings with it dozens of memories of time spent drinking coffee with loved ones at different times in your life. There is something about the smell of coffee that evokes a sense of home and comfort like nothing else. You ask the server what obliscua is. She explains it is a fried batter similar to donuts with a powdered sugar sprinkle on top. You order a basket with raspberry dipping sauce, looking forward to trying something new. You pick up the steaming mug of coffee, allowing it to warm your chilled fingers. The room hums softly with life, the gentle clink of dishes, the quiet conversation of those around you, but none of it demands your attention. Here, you can simply breathe, noticing the smoothness of the table beneath your hands, the warmth of the chair cradling you, and the slow, steady rhythm of your own breath. You smile and squeeze your shoulders in a gentle hug, basking in the happy warmth of the people and the place. Moments later, the server brings you a basket of obliscua and a small dish of dipping sauce. You take a bite and the warm dough melts in your mouth, causing an almost audible sigh of pleasure to escape from your lips. You sit back, let your shoulders relax, and allow your body to sink a little deeper into the booth as the gentle atmosphere of this cozy space and the Scandinavian comfort food soothe you. You are gratefully aware that this is a place that asks nothing of you, yet offers everything you need: warmth, comfort, sustenance, and the sense that you are exactly where you are meant to be. By the time you are ready to leave, your hands are warm again, your belly is satiated, and something inside you has quieted, as though you've been reminded that being cared for can be very simple. You pull on your hat, coat, and gloves and head to the counter to pay for your meal, and you notice the same young server who took care of you is now standing behind the counter. As you reach for your wallet, she stops you and says, "The first basket of obscure is always on the house. Enjoy your time in Solvang and your stay in the cabin." You start to thank her and tell her that you haven't booked accommodation for the night yet, but she smiles and quickly rushes away to serve another table. Any bemusement you might feel dissipates quickly, and you glance out the window and see that all the street lamps that line the street are now glowing with a soft yellow light, more noticeable now that dusk has fallen over the village. The scene calls to you strongly, and you leave the restaurant unable to resist. You reach for the door and hear the gentle jingle of a bell as it closes behind you. You continue down Mission Drive toward the center of downtown. The crisp air has a nice contrast to the warmth of the restaurant you just left. The streets are narrow, and tall street lamps line each side. They are still dressed in holiday wreaths of green pine and gold bows, though the holiday season has been over for a couple of weeks. You feel like a child in a candy store as you walk, gazing at the bright lights and beautiful baubles in each moisture-frosted storefront window. The quiet clink of doors closing and snow crunching underfoot provides a comfortable white noise for your slow journey down the street. About a block down the street, a bright blue sign with white lettering stands out on a storefront that otherwise has the typical architecture of the buildings on this street. Dark wooden beams crisscrossing over cream-colored plaster walls. The sign reads, "The Book Loft." You smile happily, thinking what a nice thing it would be to have a book to read this weekend, or maybe a new journal to pen your adventures. You walk to the store and open the large wooden door. You are greeted by a warm, cozy, intimate interior filled with books and gifts. The room gives you a sense of welcoming stillness, where the smell of paper and wood and the gentle murmur of pages turning invites reflection. Once again, you feel as though you belong, as though your environment is pulling you in, accepting you as a natural part of its existence. You are greeted by a kind woman at the front desk with silver hair and knowing blue eyes. A 3-wick candle in a ceramic dish burns on the desk next to her, filling the bookstore with the sweet scent of juniper, cedar, and snow. The woman welcomes you and explains that the new releases are in this room and the upstairs houses an area with used, rare, and antique books. She mentions that there is also a small Hans Christian Andersen museum upstairs. Yet another nod to the Danish cultural roots of Solvang that feed into the feeling of immersion in home, heritage, and community that you experience in this village. The scents and sounds in this place are calming. You spend time browsing upstairs and down, and eventually come across an area in the bookstore with two large bookshelves. One bookshelf holds books on the local history and lore of Solvang, and the other bookshelf holds books on magic and fantasy. In between the two bookshelves, you see a pair of overstuffed Queen Anne chairs covered with dark green and burgundy striped fabric. Between them sits a small cherrywood table with a Victorian Tiffany-style lamp in shades of green, blue, and gold. On the table next to the lamp sits a book titled The Disappearing Cabin of Solvang. Intrigued, you sit down and pick up the book. The back cover describes a cabin that appears for travelers who need it, but not for those who are looking for it. You are startled by the voice of the shopkeeper who says, "Ah, the disappearing cabin." She sits in the chair next to you, and you ask her to tell you more about it. She states that for over 100 years, this cabin has appeared to those who need it, those who are physically, emotionally, or mentally weary and need a place of rest. You jokingly say, "That's definitely me." She smiles compassionately at you and continues, explaining that the cabin only reveals itself when the traveler's body and mind have slowed enough that they are open to rest or care, even subconsciously. Finding the cabin requires an open heart, she explains. You ask her if she knows where it is. She tells you that those who have experienced its magic have reported it to be nestled near a river, but that's all she knows. No one has ever found it by looking for it, she said, for true caring requires no effort. You sit quietly for a moment, allowing her words to sink in, feeling as though there is something important in her words, but you're not quite seeing them for what they are. She smiles at you gently and says, "Why don't you let me wrap that book up for you, dear? A gift from me to you." You begin to object, but she gently removes the book from your hands and is already moving toward the front desk. And once again, the impending bemusement of the situation feels like it has been washed away by the care of a stranger. You rise and head to the front desk behind her. She wraps your book in brown paper adorned with a piece of purple twine and a sprig of lavender. You tell her how lovely that is and thank her for the gift. She smiles, winks at you, and says, "Enjoy the rest of your stay in Solvang and your night in the cabin." Before you can reply, a bell jingles and someone she appears to know walks in through the front door. She hurries toward them, her arms outstretched in welcome. You stop for a minute, taking in the feeling of the store, basking for a moment in the relaxing scent of the candle, and smiling to yourself. Then you head toward the door and out into the street. The cool air jars you back from your thoughts to your present situation, and you realize it is time to find lodging for the night. The village feels orderly and calm, ready for the night, ready for the winter. Everyone seems to have a purpose and a task. Everyone is so focused that it is difficult to distinguish the visitors from the locals. You continue down the street and determine you will begin looking for a place to spend the night before it gets any later. You come to a bridge crossing over a shallow river. It looks like there are several inns on the other side. You begin to cross the bridge and stop in the middle, looking out over the river. You take a deep breath, breathing in the fresh coolness of the pine-scented air. You look upstream and notice how pretty the river is. It is probably only about knee-deep in most places, but it flows steadily. Rocks of various sizes are poised like sentries here and there in the water, the moon shining on their moist surface whenever it peeks through the clouded night sky. Though you're only a couple of blocks from the heart of downtown Solvang, it feels as though that world is miles away, as though you are headed on a mental path that is somehow more important than the physical one you're on. You continue across the bridge and notice a path through the forest, just on the other side of the river. You look down the path and see a bright light at the end. Intrigued, you turn and walk down the path. It doesn't appear to be too far from the main street, and the path is well lit by lanterns at consistent distances on the ground, one on the left, the next on the right, and so on. As you travel down the path, you realize the light is coming from the front porch of a pine wood cabin. You draw closer and realize that while the cabin isn't large, it looks as though someone has been keeping it neat and clean. Suddenly, you stop in your tracks because the closer you get, you recognize it as the cabin on the cover of the book from the bookstore. You take the book out of your bag and gently remove the paper, being careful not to damage the sprig of lavender. You hold the book up and confirm it is an exact match to the cabin before you. You feel a variety of emotions in that moment. Excited at seeing the magical cabin, a little nervous about what might lie inside, wonder at being selected by the cabin as one of the rare people to see it, and hopefulness at the possibility the cabin's magic might ease your troubled heart and soul. Regardless of any emotions you might be feeling, you know that there is no way you are going to pass up the rare opportunity. You step closer, climb the few steps to the front door, put your hand on the knob, and turn. It opens easily, and you step inside, closing the door behind you. The first thing you notice is the smell of cinnamon, pine, and something hearty and delicious. The cabin is cozy and small, but quite well furnished, housing modern comforts and amenities. In the main room is a fireplace with a blazing fire in it. It is surrounded by a hearth made of white marble and wood. The mantel is decorated with ceramic candlesticks, books, silver mirrored boxes, and a garland of white flowers and greenery. that pours over one side. The fireplace faces a plush, rose-colored sofa that is adorned with throw pillows in various shades of cream and white, and a thick white blanket woven with a fabric that feels like a combination of cotton, linen, and silk. It is thick and warm, yet lighter than it seems. The glow of the fire casts a golden light onto the cushions of the white sofa. On either side of the sofa are two rose-colored striped armchairs, each with a small white pillow and a matching footstool. Next to the chairs are two small, round, white marble tables. One has a lamp, and the other a glass vase containing pink roses mixed with white hydrangeas. There is a matching marble coffee table in front of the sofa. On it sits a candle on a short stack of books, a ceramic dish with dried branches and pine cones, and a large brown leather notebook with an expensive silver pen sitting atop it. The walls of the cabin are painted in a comforting shade of silvery white, and the artwork that adorns the walls appears to be photographs of people in various places in town. There is a pretty young woman smiling on the bridge as she leans against the rail. Another is of a young man sitting under an umbrella at an outdoor breakfast table with a cup of coffee, the spring flowers bright in the background. Another is of a middle-aged woman in a red wool coat and matching hat, standing next to the town Christmas tree. Bright red, gold, and green presents at its base. You walk through the cabin and into the small, modern kitchen. The table is set with rose and white dishes in a toile pattern that is reminiscent of the old-world charm of the village. On the stove, there is a large pot of beef stew with root vegetables, its rich scent causing your stomach to complain loudly, reminding you that it has been a while since you've had a solid meal. Next to that is a teapot with steaming hot water. On the counter next to the stove is a basket of warm bread and a dish of fresh butter. You set your bags down on one of the chairs at the table, grab a mug from the place setting, and select a bag of tea from the tin next to the stove, placing it into the mug and draping the string over the side. As you pour the hot water into the mug, the heady aroma of lavender, mint, and blueberry rise up in the steam. You walk to the table and pick up a plate and bowl, serving some stew into the bowl and placing a piece of buttered bread on the plate. You grab a spoon and napkin and take your hot meal to the living room, setting it on the coffee table. You sit on the sofa, gazing at the fire, and slip off your boots. You take a sip from the hot tea, closing your eyes as its fragrant richness slides down your throat and warms your insides. You pick up the bowl and lean back on the sofa as you begin eating the stew, soaking the buttered bread in the broth. You pull your feet up on the sofa next to you and continue to eat as you gaze at the fire and ponder the cabin, the warm meal, and all the encounters you've had with strangers since this morning. The words from the woman in the bookstore come back to you. True caring requires no effort, and you think about the depth of that statement, wondering if it exists apart from this village of Solvang. This cabin is tucked away, hidden from plain sight. Who is to say if it is literally only visible when someone needs it, or if it is always there and nature interferes in closing around it to keep it from view or keep those out who do not belong? Either way, the cabin is never forced. The traveler only notices it when they are quiet and ready, not when they are looking for it. You realize that walking through town seems to have the effect of quieting the traveler enough that they are in the state of mind necessary to accept the care that is offered to them. Should they be open to it, they may make it this far. You think about the care the village has given you this day. Kind people, warm food, comfortable places to sit quietly, and the pastoral elements of the heavy mist, the forest, and the river. You set your empty bowl back on the table and pick up the mug of tea, wrapping your hands around its comforting heat. You realize that the quiet way the village reshapes one's perspective is reminiscent of the quiet charm and comforting rituals of the village itself. The key seems to be mindfulness, presence, and quiet observation. Solvang doesn't demand attention, but the moment the traveler's mind slows and the body relaxes, they are able to immerse themselves in its beauty. Then it is as though a door slowly opens and the environment reveals exactly what is needed. Your eyes suddenly light on the leather notebook on the table. You set down your mug of tea, pull the throw blanket over your lap, and pick up the book, settling back into the softness of the sofa as you unwrap the leather ties and open the book's cover, resting it on your lap. On the first page is a handwritten phrase, "The cabin welcomes all who need rest." You turn to the next page and notice that the book appears to be a journal written by those who have spent time in the cabin over the years. The paper is a thick and fibrous, high-quality linen. As you flip through the pages, you see handwritten entries, some with drawings attached, some with dried flowers or leaves stuck between the pages, some just with words. There are no names or dates, and though the book is large and has many entries, you have a sense that the pages will somehow never run out. You pick up your tea again, turn to the next page, and begin reading. The entry reads as follows. I found the cabin just as the snow began to fall harder, when the road seemed to lose its mind and turn back on itself. Inside, everything was warm in a way I hadn't felt in years. Not just the air, but the silence. I slept deeply without dreams and woke before dawn to a pale blue light filling the room. On the table was a loaf of bread still warm, though no one had come or gone. I didn't ask questions. By morning, the path I arrived on was gone, and with it, the heaviness I'd been carrying since my husband passed. I left this here in case someone else needs proof that rest like this is possible. You turn to another page. I wasn't looking for a cabin. I was looking for anywhere that didn't require me to be someone useful. The door opened easily as if it already knew me. I spent the evening reading a book I swear wasn't there when I arrived. Its margins marked in a handwriting not unlike my own. The fire never needed tending. I cried once quietly, and the sound felt absorbed by the walls. When I woke, my heart was filled with hopefulness. I knew what I needed to do next with my life. Not the details, just the direction. That was enough. The cabin faded as I stepped outside, like breath on glass. You turned to the last page with writing, thinking this may have been the person who was here just before you. I stayed only one night, though time behaved strangely. I could have sworn I heard church bells from my childhood far away and very close at once. The cabin smelled of pine and something sweet, like baked apples. I sat by the window and watched snow fall into moonlight, feeling watched over but not watched. Before leaving, I carved my initials into the edge of the table, but they were gone when I looked back. Perhaps the cabin keeps only what it chooses. If you are reading this, be gentle with your stay. The cabin is not meant to be owned. You close the book and hold it close to your chest, breathing in the rich smell of the leather as you snuggle into the blanket and gaze at the fire. You wonder what you should write, but feel certain it will come to you instinctively in the morning. Now, though, you feel an overwhelming sense of peace and calmness wash over you, your eyes suddenly feeling heavy. Though you're certain there is a bedroom beyond the kitchen, you feel perfectly content lying here on the sofa by the fire. Suddenly, you hear a quiet meow, and a cat wanders from the back room into the living area, rubbing against the side of the sofa near your hand. You thought you were alone, but pleased for the companionship and soft comfort of a pet, you invite the cat upon the sofa. It jumps up, cuddles next to you in the warmth of the blanket, and purrs loudly as you pet it. You didn't think you could feel more content, yet you do. Evening deepens around the cabin, the fire settling into gentle flames, the wind moving softly through the trees, the creek babbling gently but consistently outside the window. You see the candles glowing brightly and hear the gentle tick of the clock on the wall. You wonder what you have done to deserve this place, this time, this magical cabin. The last thing you hear before you close your eyes is a soft, gentle voice inside your head saying, "That's the lesson, dear one. True care requires no effort." A soft smile comes to your lips, and you feel the warm fur of the cat and the gentle vibrations of its purr beneath your fingers as you close your eyes and allow yourself to drift down into deep, restorative sleep. Good night.